my name is Roya, and I just read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And this book, hi dog, I'm filming. Um, this book was amazing. It's the kind of book that I highly recommend sitting down and just reading the whole thing in one sitting. And I made the mistake of reading this when I couldn't just read the whole thing in one sitting because I had a whole bunch of stuff to do. And it was just so hard to put it down every time. Seriously though, this is one of the best books I think I've read all year. It's about a girl named Feyre who lives with her father and two sisters, and they are poor, and she is the only one who goes and gets them food or money because she can hunt. And her sisters are just really snooty and don't do anything and are honestly kind of ungrateful. So one day she hunts a wolf and sells its pelt, and that wolf turns out to be a fairy. So a fairy in the form of a creepy monster thing comes to her door and says, "You killed my friend, you have to either die or come live with me." So she goes off to live with the fairy, and she falls in love with him, and she basically ends up having to lift a curse that's on him and his whole realm, and yeah. So one of the good things about this book is that there's really never a slow moment. What an ideal story sort of does is, while you're still into whatever, reading about whatever setting or whatever situation is going on, shit will go down and the situation will change and something bad will happen. And that happened like 4 different times in this book. So while I was like having a lot of fun reading about her hunting and having to support her family, she ends up having to like leave and go live with the fairy. And then it starts being really, really fun reading about her at the fairy court and all this stuff, and then she has to go back home. And then I'm having so much fun reading about her adjustment being back at home when she has to go back to the fairy realm and rescue everybody and blah 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 blah. So the book really keeps moving, and just the plot never is slow at any point, and it's awesome. Another thing I really like about it is how most of the characters are ones that aren't just good or bad, and you're really not sure if you think they're mostly good or mostly bad, or whether you like them or dislike them, any of that stuff, because there's just so in between. It's really pretty interesting how really that's kind of how life is. No one's really good or bad, and she just did such a good job with these characters. It's awesome. The only one who's purely just bad is the main villain, who you don't really get introduced to until halfway through. But really, there is also an element of, I understand why she did all that stuff. And Feyre realizes that if she were in the same situation, she may have ended up the same way. So in a way, the bad guy, even like the main bad guy, is really not that bad, not all bad. Nobody is in this book. Also, the romance in it is really compelling and really adds to the story, and that is always a plus with young adult novels, because sometimes the romance can get really annoying and really just thrown in your face, but in this it's not at all, and it's really cool. And another of my favorite things about it is the riddle that she has to solve, when she has to either solve a riddle automatically and win everybody's freedom, or have to undergo 3 very dangerous tasks and all that stuff. And so ideally, of course, she wants to solve the riddle first, but she can't come up with the answer. And crazily enough, I solved it like really quickly. And so basically the riddle that she has to solve is solvable by normal humans and everything, and it's solvable to the reader because I figured it out. I honestly can't even believe I figured out a riddle that's in a book. I feel like usually any riddle that's in a book that a main character has to solve or anything is kind of written in such a complex way that the reader isn't really supposed to get it. Kind of like Harry Potter, where the Sphinx gives him a riddle and it's super weird, and it says like, okay, what's a sound that you think about when you're when you're trying to think of something and it turns out it's or something, and that's part of the riddle, and it's like nobody but Harry Potter would get that because he always says like nobody else says that really. So stuff like that, the reader kind of isn't really supposed to, it's not supposed to be that solvable or anything, it's just a riddle that's in there, and then the main character gets it right away and you're kind of like, okay, yeah, right. But then in this book, when Feyre solves it, it's totally believable that she got it because it's an answer that everyone can identify with, and it makes perfect sense. And the reader can solve it before she does. And so when she finally gets it right, um, you go like, oh yeah, of course that's a riddle she could have gotten. So it just makes it believable. So overall, I definitely give this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my favorites of the whole year. I loved this book so much. This was only my second Sarah J. Maas book as well. I've only read Throne of Glass and not the rest of the series, just the first Throne of Glass book. So if you'll excuse me, I have a really awesome Sarah J. Maas book to get back to. If you have read A Court of Thorns if you've read A Court of Thorns and Roses, tell me your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you soon with another video. Bye!